Dobry day, everybody. My name is Hideout. As we know, a popular first-person shooter in the extraction genre has recently come out, and it's called Delta Force Hawk Ops. Currently, it's available on both Steam and Epic Games, but it's yet to be released on mobile devices, and it's gonna be available on iOS and Android. You see, when I first heard about this game, I just thought to myself,
Suddenly, it appeared.
so yeah, it felt like it just popped out of nowhere. But then, a big thought, a big realization struck my head, and I felt extremely enlightened. I've heard about a game called Delta Force way before the Delta Force that we know today was even announced. And as it turns out, it actually was a big franchise. The first ever Delta Force game came out in 1998, basically 2 years before Counter-Strike 1.6 was published. A couple of games from the Classic Bundle are still available on Steam, which is very good if you would like to experience the old Delta Force. The only thing is, it did not become as popular as Counter-Strike as the time went on. The last game from this series, called Delta Force Extreme 2, came out in 2009, and then there was a 15-year-old hiatus, if you can call it like that. I mean, looking at these graphics and comparing them to, let's say, Crysis, Modern Warfare 2, or even Doom 3, you could say that this wasn't the standard. And even though it is low-end device friendly, I assume this was the major reason why the game and the franchise failed. Or maybe it was just bad luck, or they didn't have enough budget. And speaking of budget, it seems like the rights for this game have been bought by a different company, because as you can see, the old Delta Force was developed and published by Nova Logic, and the Delta Force that is popular nowadays is published by Temi Studio. By the way, the same studio that is responsible for development of Call of Duty Mobile, and developed by Team Jade, and it's Tencent. And once again, I thought to myself, do we have a Theseus ship situation? If you start rebuilding the ship by replacing every detail, will it remain the same ship in the end? Considering the fact that Delta Force Hawk Ops will have locations from Black Ops Hawk down, the answer is certainly yes. This game serves as a remake, and the fact that it has a campaign and it's free is an absolute banger. And the game that I've heard about years prior to Delta Force Hawk Ops coming out is called Delta Force Urban Warfare. And I came across this game while searching for first-person shooters available for PlayStation 1. Back in the day, and frankly I still am, a big fan of retro games, and I played them all by using an emulator. The best website, in my opinion, for playing PlayStation 1 games is PS1 Fun. I have a problem with registering. I honestly do not know what the matter is, but you do not need to register to play games. And the best thing about this website is that you can save your progress. They have their own JavaScript based emulator Many websites used to require Adobe Flash Player to run these retro games before the platform became entirely unsupported. Luckily for PS1 fun, this was never the issue. And I totally love the fact that you can adjust the PlayStation control buttons according to your keyboard. And speaking of which, here are the controls so that you wouldn't have to spend a lot of time tinkering with these. The game was made in 2002, and the song that can be heard on the radio in the very first level, called Redemption by Third Strike, suggests that the events take place in the same year. So far, I have played only 2 levels, the second one being divided into 3 sections, so I can't tell you much about the plot, but I didn't want to reveal too many details so that you wouldn't play the game yourself. Anyway, I assume that the main character is the commander of these Delta Force units. Okay, I admit, his face looks hilarious, but I enjoy the voice acting.
Looks like a comm unit. That could be useful. I can listen to what they're up to.
But your team, in the very beginning of the game, gets caught up in a huge trap, a building full of explosives. And it's the 3rd Delta Force unit that was lost in the previous 2 months. And you have to do all the job alone. But you're no GoldenEye, you are not Agent 007. The game is far from the fast-paced first-person shooters that we are so used to. It's more like Splinter Cell that, by the way, came out a few months after this game. It's very tactical, what people like to call a milsim. Your health bar is very low, you cannot auto-regenerate, and medikits are scarce, so it's best to take one enemy at a time and plan your moves before engaging them. The game has a variety of weapons, including rocket launchers, even though they appear in the very last levels of the game. It features explosives such as grenades and C4s and detonators for ranged use. You can use a knife both as a melee weapon and as a throwable. Unfortunately, there is no 360 view of the world, and there is no ADSing in the classic sense either. Instead, the crosshair moves automatically when it detects an enemy, and you can press square to zoom in and do it manually. But when the crosshair turns red, you will get a guaranteed headshot, which is a very nice mechanic in my opinion. There's also a button to immediately turn back when somebody's shooting behind you. You can crouch, you can even go prone, and the best part is that you can lean. Lean either left or right so that you can have some wall cover. Did you know that the earliest versions of Counter-Strike also had leaning, but later it got scrapped? Perhaps for making the game either less complicated or more casual. I also want to note that the game welcomes you with a genuinely magnificent, superb soundtrack. I totally love this. And we must not forget about the equipment. You have night vision goggles. Sometimes there will be moments when the lights go off and they will be very useful. And there is also heat vision, infrared light that allows you to see the enemies through the walls to again plan your moves precisely before engaging them. There is a part where you have to use a sniper rifle and you can manually zoom in and out while looking through the scope. I'm honestly surprised that the game this old has so many interesting mechanics. It totally deserves a big praise for that. The game itself is very atmospheric. I like how you always go on a mission during the night, and sometimes the weather may be bad. And if Silent Hill has fog, then this game has the rain. I like these textures. And it feels pretty nostalgic too. When I first played PlayStation 1 games through my computer, it felt surreal. And this game truly reminds me about these moments. This is most likely due to the graphics. I read that PlayStation 2 had more memorable games or games that became more popular. I should check them out too, but PlayStation 1, it just has a special place in my heart. Not to mention that so many indie game developers try to replicate this kind of graphics, and they do a great job. Overall, I'm very glad to see that the Delta Force that we have nowadays has such a unique legacy, and I definitely encourage you to try this game out. And let's not forget about our art of the day. This time we got a scene from the game, like gameplay, and this is just to remind you about those times when you were a kid, and probably many of you used to draw these scenes from the games that you played, whether it was a third-person shooter, a platformer, or an FPS. I mean, I personally love what I did here. I'm very proud of my results. After I finish Urban Warfare, I intend to find Black Hawk Down somewhere so that I will be able to play that game first and then compare it with the newest remake. So that's it for today, guys. Take care, and I'll see you later.